Endure and survive, and welcome everybody to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. In this video, we will be telling you what to expect for Season 2 of The Last of Us, so major spoilers ahead. Dylan, I know you love the series thus far, but you haven't played Last of Us Part 2, one of my favorite games, so haters hate. What do you think we will expect?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a novice to this franchise, but I loved the first season that Neil Druckmann put out. I think it was a beautiful adaptation. So yeah, I mean, when we discussed the finale, obviously there was the lie that hung over Joel, because he had to save Ellie. Unfortunately, he had to sacrifice, the Fireflies for the greater good of saving Ellie. But yeah, I think for Season 2, it'll probably be the ramifications of that. So he'll probably have to live with this lie and kind of feel guilt also that he killed Marlene, right? And I think Ellie will kind of have this inner mistrust for Joel, even if they've gotten closer than they've ever before. There's still that inner lying suspicion that she has, right? Because she kind of knew something was up in the finale, but I think she kind of can't really trust Joel, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know you're an avid fan of the franchise, so tell me what you expect.
Yeah, it's like Ashley Johnson said, Ellie has a great bullshit detector, and at that moment when she said okay, it was like, okay, like I know you're lying, and we have to go back down to Jackson now, let's move on, and I'm gonna try and live my life here. This lie hangs over Ellie's head for the majority of her young childhood, right? Yeah, because she's 14, and then so there's a 5-year time jump in The Last of Us Part 2, so then she becomes 19, Bella Ramsey's real age, which is really interesting. So I don't think they should recast her. Everyone's saying recast Bella Ramsey. No, I love Bella Ramsey as Ellie. But your choices really have ramifications, and it's like dropping a stone in a puddle of water, and there's this ripple effect, and it affects everybody, and affects Ellie, and Ellie has a lot of guilt. Ellie thinks that she is the one to save all. She is just a girl, and she isn't worth this chance to live a happy life when Sam had died, and all the things that she's been through. Right. So the fact that Joel did that, one could consider it was selfish of him. She felt robbed, and so we will see this explored in Season 2. We also seen that in The Last of Us Part 2. There's a beautiful scene that had happened, but right off the get-go, what we might expect from Episode 1 is that we might see, instead of, they could do a flashback. I think Joel said that I'm going to teach you how to play guitar. And all the fans got excited because there was this beautiful ass cover of Future Days in the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2. And it was a cheer-jerker. I think it was symbolic of how much he loved Ellie. It was this love song that and in the Future Days was, again, like, if I ever were to lose you, I'll truly lose myself. And those were the lyrics.
Wouldn't it be so funny too? Because you know how they find ways to incorporate the cast of the video game. What if, like, Gustavo Santaolalla was just there, like, playing guitar or something.
Well, I hope he makes an appearance somehow. Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that this show takes place in 2003 and Future Days came out in 2013. So, and there was even a time discrepancy with that too. Apparently Future Days in 2013 came out after the outbreak. So they did something where they said maybe Joel saw a concert or something like that. I don't know. But I don't know what song they might put. I hope it is Future Days. But, you know, we were having theories about maybe Depeche Mode. Like, they featured that song two times. Maybe they'll do something with that. Because it's like, I'm hanging out with my best friend or something like that. So maybe they'll do a cover for that. But yeah, so he sings her this beautiful song, but you see in Ellie's face that she felt something for it, but there was this thought that she had inside of her. It was this thing that lived inside of her. It's like, maybe now my whole life here in Jackson is a lie. And Last of Us Part 2 has a lot of flashbacks, and there's a lot of juxtaposition moments and gameplay sequences where a lot of people felt it was very jaunting and it took you out of the experience when you had to play as a different character. But that's what had happened. I wonder how they're going to do that in Season 2. Because we get a perspective of different characters in Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, do you think they'll do that early on, where it's kind of revealed about the lie, or do you think they'll hold off maybe, or do you think they'll even do it at all? Maybe they'll split Part 2 of the game into 2 parts for the show.
Well, for sure, they're gonna definitely have 2 seasons, but well, look, they had flashbacks already in Season 1. I mean, now if they want to do flashbacks, maybe they could do the same exact flashbacks that had occurred in The Last of Us Part 2. Instead of giving more exposition to these characters, now it's like, it's just straight from the game this time around. When you get to play as a different character, I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know if they're going to do that in Season 3 or something like that. I don't know. Because The Last of Us Part 2 is a huge game. It's really long. It even came with a data disc, so it's a heavy game. But I think the first episode definitely will take place, and I'm going to spoil this for everybody now. So you've been warned. Joel dies. Joel dies. Okay. Man. Joel, and this is what sets off the cycle of violence. It continues again. The beginning of the game, Ellie has to go on patrol with this character named Dina. That's a love interest. And Ellie is fighting some infected here and there. And we meet a new character. Her name is Abby. And as you can see from the gameplay right now, this is Abby. And Abby is the daughter of the surgeon that Joel killed. And we get to see that in the show. And so Abby is a buff woman, I tell you that much, because she looks hella strong, right? She could kill me and you. Yeah. she could mess us up both. She built her body as a weapon, so she has her own reasons. And again, choices can make a tidal wave. So she wants revenge. So that's really what The Last of Us Part 2 is about. It's about justice and revenge and what that does to you. So we see that apparently Abby finally meets Joel. She's saved by Joel. She's there in Wyoming with a crew, and we don't know where this crew is from, and it's just to hunt down Joel. And so she's saved from a group of infected, which I hope they find a way to put this in the show, because the show lacked infected of some sort. Like, there was a lot more in the first game.
They did it at key moments, but I think maybe Season 2 has more room to explore the different various types of infected.
I hope they go with, because there's like a lot of horde running moments. When I love that in zombie movies, like 28 Weeks Later. So they save her, and Joel's accompanied by Tommy. And Abby says, well, I have a place that we could hold up in, right? So they leave on horse. And they meet this new group of survivors, and they're in this place, and it's like a lodge of some sort. And man, oh man, the way how this played out, I hope they capture this, especially for newcomers. This is going to be so shocking to people, because the way how they played it out was, oh, Abby's just all right. We don't know why she's there. And then she says something, and Joel says something. And the way how she finds out that that's Joel and that's Tommy is because they said it naively. They said their name in front of everybody, and everybody is looking like, oh, these are the guys. So Abby shoots Joel in the leg with a shotgun. And they knock out Tommy. This, as Neil Druckmann described, was a very disrespectful way to dispatch somebody. And she wanted to take her time.
God! Damn it! Clear out.
So they tourniquet his leg, and that's where we see Jesse, this character. Jesse, I love Jesse. Jesse's the other love interest of Dina. That we get to see Dina in episode, I believe, episode 6. There might be an Easter egg, and again, Dina's Ellie's love interest. Yeah, it's complicated. Love triangles. What can I tell you? So Ellie's looking for, and the reason why I'm explaining all of this is because this probably will be the first episode, if they have the balls to actually shock the world. Because I tell you what, the gaming community was sure shocked by Joel's death, and so Ellie stumbles upon Abby beating the hell out of Joel with a golf club, and they hold her down. And it was very perverse the way how they held her down, and they beat on her relentlessly, and she had a bloodied face. And there's a guy named Owen. We don't know who Owen is yet, and Owen says, you have to end this. So the final hit, Joel staring directly at Ellie's eyes, bloodied up, Ellie's crying, and Abby delivers the final blow, and Joel is done. He's dead. And then they knock out Ellie, and then we arrive to the burial site of Joel. So Ellie's there wearing his green plaid shirt. I feel like to smash my head against a keyboard whenever I see that, because I feel so sad. I promise you, I bet with you $100 right now, whoever's watching, that's how it's gonna end. She's gonna be besides the tombstone of Joel. That's episode 1.
I wonder if that could be like the cold opening for the first episode. You ever notice in like a lot of shows they do like a really shock value cold open, and then the rest of the episode is leading up to how that happened?
Oh wait,
what if the first cold open we see is actually that, like Joel dying, right?
Well, you know what? Unless they do things in a reverse order, unless the cold opening was more somber, and she was in the grave, she was like looking at a tombstone, but we don't know. You know how all the cold openings set up the tone for the episode?
Yeah.
And this is the past? Well, this is the trajectory right here. Someone's dying, and she's going to be sad for it. Maybe that's how it starts. And so I'm not going to go detail by detail for The Last of Us Part 2. I think everybody should experience it. It's a beautiful game. One of my favorite games. I will fight anybody who tries to say otherwise. I'm looking at you, Justin. You guys don't know who Justin is. But yeah, I think season 2... I don't know how you're going to split it. I don't think they're going to split it directly in half of part 2, right? They're going to go there. But we do spend majority of our time also with Abby, and we get to understand what group is she from? Where does she live? She's participating in some war. What is her psyche? And that war, she actually helps out some people on the opposing side, and she gains perspective. And in a way, she becomes this type of Joel character. She embodies Joel, and she also is accompanied by another character called Lev. And Lev is kind of like Ellie in some sense, very naive. So they're Joel and Ellie. A lot of things happen, but I tell you what though, I'm really worried who they're gonna cast as Abby.
I was just about to ask you that, like, who could you see like filling the role?
I don't know. There's this girl from I think it's the show called The Wilds. I'll post a picture right now. And in that show, I don't know if I could really see her as Abby. Here's the thing, though. Abby dedicated her whole life to bodybuilding, and it's like, could you really find an actress that'll do the same? I mean, they tried to do that with Gal Gadot, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I built muscle." I'm like, you know what I mean? Not really. Like, I don't know.
Taskmaster's actress in there.
Oh
somehow.
God. Well, I don't know. Unless they redesign it and they say, I dedicated my life to jujitsu and sambo or something like that, and that's what I'm gonna. I don't know.
Ronda Rousey as Abby.
Oh no. Well, they're similarly the age. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you. Do you think we could possibly see like maybe each episode is dedicated, because we have so many new additions to the part 2, and it's not just about Joel and Ellie anymore. Do you think possibly each episode could be dedicated from a different perspective of a character?
That's interesting. I wonder if that's too jaunting as well. because that was one problem how they did in The Last of Us Part 2. I wonder if that's because it's like if you have something that's so shocking and in the next episode you don't go back to it, it's like, you're not going to enjoy episode 2 because you're seeing it from Jesse's perspective or something, or what happens with Dina. So I don't really know. From how they did season 1, I think they're going to follow that same routine. Just they're going to expand on it a little bit more. It is Johnson. There's side characters. Like they're not super crucial to the story. If you were to leave them out. But they are very warming to the story as well, so you don't want to leave them out. I don't think so, to be honest with you. I think that for the main part, the focus is going to be on Ellie, at least for season 2. I think a lot of people, including yourself, enjoyed episode 7. So I really think that it's going to be Ellie and Dina. And again, like, who are you going to cast as Dina? Because Dina is going to be a regular, one of the leads in the show. So it's like, you're going to have to cast somebody pretty good, which I trust them now. Abby, I'm really worried about. I don't know.
Other elements do you think will definitely be switched up or kind of revised for television?
I wonder, what if they actually don't kill off Joel? The thing is, the amount of death threats that Neil Druckmann had, and Laura Bailey, the voice actress, and Jocelyn Fenster, I think her name is, she's the face model for Abby. The amount of death threats they receive, I don't want to see the same thing happen to Craig Mazin, or just the cast like Bella Ramsey and stuff like that, or whoever plays Abby. I don't know if they'll revise it. I think it's kind of, you can't really make a story different from The Last of Us Part 2. It's like Joel has to die. It's kind of like this Godfather-esque thing in the sequel where something happens, but forever you'll remember it, but you still know it's a great franchise. So
do you believe that maybe he does die, but they change how he dies?
They could do that. I mean, as long as it's disrespectful, because there's this utteral feeling inside of her, like she just wants vengeance, and nobody could get in her way. No one can stop this. If they do something like that, sure. For sure, they're gonna cut out a lot of gameplay sequences. The only gameplay sequence that I really want to see Rat King. I'm not gonna spoil that because I want everybody to experience Rat King on television for the first time. It's horrifying. And the hotel. There's a hotel filled with infected. Like a whole huge ass building, and you have to go down every floor. I hope they have that. But as for action sequences, I don't know. Listen, Ellie commits full-blown genocide in The Last of Us Part 2. She's so hell-bent on this mission that she will do whatever it takes, and she kills a lot of people. And then we get to see that in a different perspective, through Abby's perspective, where she sees her friends die, and she sees body bags, and she's like, oh, who did this, right? And you think it's the actual opposing side from this battle that they're fighting, but it's actually Ellie that did this. One thing I love about The Last of Us as a whole is that it is in the gray. No one's really bad. And that's what I appreciate about The Last of Us Part 2 when I got to play as Abby. It was really surprising to see how much of a villain Ellie actually is. If they could encapsulate that in 9 episodes, they did something really great. If they can't, I think they botched it completely. They fumbled the bag. Yeah, and Tommy has a bigger role to play as well. He wants revenge, just not in the same way that Ellie wants revenge. Because remember, her father died in front of her eyes. To see something like that, you have to live with that forever. But if you use that and you make that your whole life, you are robbing yourself this time. Joel didn't rob you. Now you are robbing yourself to live a life with
peace,
and your significant other. You nobody can relate to you anymore, right? You're alone, and that's Ellie's biggest fear. So, yeah. So we also get this faction called the WLF, Wolf for short. That's with Abby. Abby is a really great soldier. In Wolf, I think we might see, what's his name? What's that voice actor from What If that played Utal the Watcher? It was like not Jeffrey Pierce.
Jeffrey Wright?
Yeah. He voices the main commander. That would be really cool if they got him to reprise his role. It's kind of like Marlene, and then all of a sudden now you got him. I hope they do that. they use a lot of the actors as the face models too. So we got Lev, played by Ian Alexander. I wonder if they'll bring Ian Alexander back. The actor's a little old now, so I'm not too sure. Who's to say? Maybe. But I think how the story might be structured, because you mentioned, are they going to do things out of order and stuff like that? Like the show Hunters, we reviewed that show. It might be a little bit like that, where Ellie is killing each person each episode, maybe. Mm-hmm. Maybe not at first, but maybe like after episode 3, that's when she'll get to the nitty gritty and really offing people.
I wonder too, maybe if they did something like, now that you mentioned Hunters, where they kind of had that parallel story with Meyer. Mm-hmm. I wonder if maybe they'll explore like the 5-year time gap.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect opportunity to do it like that. They could, because I didn't mind those sequences in Hunters. Yeah, they did it good.
Yeah, well, now I'm thinking, because like, what if they kill Joel off early?
Right.
It's like, oh well, then you kind of wasted the opportunity for Pedro Pascal to give more of a great performance. Mm-hmm. So the only way you could do that is with flashback scenes, right?
Oh, so yeah.
In tangent with the gameplay story, you explored this kind of like 5-year gap, right?
Oh yeah, and that happened, and there was a beautiful moment that was called it was like a museum, a dinosaur museum. Mm-hmm. That was so beautiful, and it was more of a gut punch when you know that Joel had died, but it was actually when they came to Jackson, and then they wanted to go on a trip, and Joel wanted to give her a surprise. And Joel's not a very talkative person. We get to see more of him trying to cater towards Ellie's humor and stuff like that in episode 9. He's a really sweet character because he tries to learn more about space and dinosaurs because she's interested in it. Mm-hmm. And he surprised her with like this surprise visit, and it was really sweet. I could so see that being majority of an episode. It could be like that Left Behind episode. I could see that happening. I think that might actually happen. Maybe I think it'll fit in episode 7 or so, like just spacing it out. And it's like, oh, you brought him back. Oh my God, how beautiful. But my main concern is how they're going to handle the back and forth between Abby and Ellie. I don't know how you do that on television, really. That must be so fragile, because you already hate Abby for what she did. You love Pedro Pascal too. That's the other thing. It's like the added love for Pedro Pascal, and then now Joel, and then you kill him off. How are you going to make people go on Abby's side, or how are you going to just try to understand Abby? She's not like Kathleen. Kathleen's like one and done. This is a person that took away your favorite character.
Right.
That's why people were so butthurt about The Last of Us Part 2. But I think it's a very mature story, and that's why I love it so much. So let's talk a little bit about gameplay sequences, because for the most part, there's a lot of cinematics, and the season 1 did cover a lot of cinematics rather than gameplay sequences, unfortunately. I could so see that happening in season 2, unfortunately. But I tell you what though, season 2 must be super expensive to make, because The Last of Us Part 2, just the set pieces alone in Seattle, where buildings are they fell down, and you got free like range to just go wherever you want.
Right. Probably big budget, yeah.
Bigger budget, yeah, and we already know that Pedro Pascal's getting paid apparently $600,000 per episode.
Oh, his bank account just says thank you every time.
Yeah,
like he gets
it's like, oh, you again?
Plus he's doing Mandalorian, so it's like, yeah, that's interesting now, because now that you mentioned that, it's like we won't get much of him. So how much involvement does he have with part 2 or season 2?
Well, I know that Bella Ramsey for sure she's actually in the process of trying to plan out Last of Us Part 2. They actually got her directly involved with the writers there. So I think she's going to get a pay bump for sure. She's actually the lead. Believe it or not, Bella Ramsey is actually the lead, not Joel.
Yeah, actually, now I'm thinking about it, when do you expect maybe that they'll release or go into production? Because it seems like they would want Bella Ramsey to kind of age a little bit. Maybe they could do that with, CGI or prosthetics or whatever, but do you think they would take some time before they go into, like, do you see this within a year, 2 years? Like, what's the time schedule in your opinion?
I really see this, to be honest with you, coming back in a year, like Game of Thrones. Bella Ramsey has social media. She still looks very young. I'm gonna sound creepy saying this, but she prefers to bind her chest and stuff like that. I mean, it makes sense for a 14-year-old, right? You don't want to sexualize a 14-year-old.
You're right.
So she's basically a woman now. She's 19 in Last of Us Part 2, and she has relationships with Dina and stuff like that. The only thing is she's very short. But Craig Mazin loves that. She's a fighter and a smaller body. And I think that's why Bella Ramsey is perfect for the role. Right, she has like this cutesy look, but she'll fucking stab the hell out of your face.
Right.
You know,
so I think that's perfect. Yeah, but
exactly.
I couldn't see her being recasted because she fit that role so perfectly.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm wondering if maybe it'll be some time before the next season.
I don't think so, to be honest with you. I mean, because how much of a change she will have in reality with just 1 year or 2 years?
Right. Like, look at the Stranger Things kids, right? They grew up in like a blink of an eye.
Right.
So it's like,
I really think that the show might. I don't know. I'm always bad in predicting release dates and stuff like that. Once that Game of Thrones coming out, right? Is that coming out when? And then like
the new House of the Dragon.
Thingy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna probably follow that type of release schedule. I mean,
who knows? Because do you think HBO would put two big IPs together?
Oh, fuck.
That close?
Yeah, hell yeah, because you want as many people watching your content as possible. Hell yeah, because already House of the Dragon racks in hella views, and then you have The Last of Us that already beat House of the Dragon. But you can't have Last of the Dragon on Sunday and The Last of Us on Sunday. It's not going to be like that. It's like Succession. Last of Us finished, now Succession's coming.
Right.
You know, so it's going to be and then after Succession, Barry, and then Euphoria, and then blah 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 blah. But at least there's something. So yeah, I think it might be pretty sooner than we expected. But I don't know how many seasons you will get out of this. It will most likely be 2. That's what they said. But there is no Last of Us Part 3 yet. So maybe it's going to end for good. Until the foreseeable future. I don't know. Or unless they're, Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann are practically best friends at this point. So Neil Druckmann's giving Craig Mazin all the tea probably in the DMs. He's like, oh yeah, this happened in Last of Us Part 3. Yeah. Let's adapt it like that. So I wonder, what's interesting is having a game out the same time as you have the show and they're both the same story. I wonder if they'll do that. I never seen that happen before.
I wonder too if it'll be like a Game of Thrones thing where like it goes beyond the source material.
Oh, for The Last of Us Part 2 or just Part 3?
Yeah, for Part 2.
Oh, I hope not. Well, look, they added great changes too, I think, to the first season. I mean, I can't really imagine if there's gonna be a love story. I could see something with Abby, like one of the characters, because she has her own characters too. These two people have their own side characters, and it's like,
right? Yeah,
there's a lot more to pull from.
Well, it would be weird because like if they didn't. If Craig Mazin was planning a part 3 for the game, right, and then you kind of do your own thing with the show that goes beyond part 2, it's kind of a conflict of canon, I guess.
Unless it doesn't matter to them. Everybody wants it to stick close to source material. Everybody hates when.
Well, it seems like it matters a lot to them. How loyal it is to the game.
Yeah. I mean, for sure that could probably be a problem. Well, like I said, if you just stay faithful to the ugly side, The Last of Us is a good showcase of the ugly side. If you stay close to that, and again, you're truthful with your storytelling and you don't try to hold your punches, I think you'll have another worthy adaptation of a video game. But it's scary too. Again, it's really scary because how will the numbers drop? I don't know. Will the numbers drop? I would say if the numbers drop, people are so butthurt too, because it's this happened in the game. So you probably heard somehow that Joel died. I mean, that Joel died like before I told you. Your friend told you or something like that. Right, so it's like, people probably will expect this.
The game is how the part 2 came out when? Like
I think like either 2018 or 19.
Well, yeah, there's still. I mean, not that long ago, but still a good amount of time that people have digested the content already, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's actually more digestible through television than it is actual from a game.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess people have issues with the game, but perhaps, like you said, like TV makes it more digestible, or I guess what fans kind of wanted to see, I guess.
Well, let me tell you this. 2013, The Last of Us comes out on PlayStation 3. And it had a huge celebration. Everybody loved it. And then because of that, they had their own celebration. It was called Outbreak Day, but they changed it because the pandemic. So they changed it to like The Last of Us Day. But you have countless interviews with Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson. It revolutionized storytelling in games. Then you had a comic called American Dreams, which was cool. People love Ellie. You had a remaster. Last was remastered for PS4. And then Last of Us Part 2 comes out of all these years. And then right in the beginning, you kill your favorite character that you've been loving forever. So I could understand why people are mad. So that's why I'm thinking, well, maybe it's not so bad in television. It's like you didn't have too much time to soak on it. You could digest it better. It's kind of like binge streaming something. It's like
it's a buffer, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay. That's what I'm hoping. That everyone's cool with it and really just enjoyed this very deep and mature story. The story of The Last of Us Part 2 is like once you reach the end, it's kind of like you should drink whiskey and smoke a cigar, and like you hear the song. Yeah, you hear the song in the beginning of this intro, right. And it's like you're just like reminiscing on stuff. I think The Last of Us Part 2 pulls on people's deepest and worst fears as well, and it ends like that. Again, it's a hard pill to swallow, a lot of story beats in the game, but that's why I think it's a type of game where you really should only play it once. It's kind of hard to play, unless you're a psychopath like me, but no, I love The Last of Us Part 2, so I played it like so many times. But again, at least we have Season 3, and I just hope people love Abby as a character. And I'm not going to spoil like a lot of things. I just said the beginning just because I wanted you guys to really...
For context, yeah.
Exactly. But after that, I'm not going to go to the nitty gritty of it. I want you guys to savor that. And I can't wait to see how they may introduce certain elements that maybe enhance what happens in the game.
Well, whether you're a fan of Part 1 or Part 2, I think this franchise has a great community like yourself. So I think it'll be a great turnout for Season 2, honestly. And then there's fans like me who haven't played the game, but I think it'll be a great, enriching experience. I really want to get into the game. I mean, I'm pretty lazy when it comes to games, but after, your whole breakdown and just seeing the narratology behind this franchise, it makes me want to explore the franchise even more. Yeah. So it'll be a great conduit for when Season 2 comes out. I'm excited, but
I can't wait.
Great points, man.
Thank you so much. I guess that is our end of what to expect for Season 2 of The Last of Us. Guys, if you made it to the end of this video, we have an episode by episode breakdown, link down below, and we have plenty of content coming out pretty soon. We have a lot of reviews, and April, my goodness, we're gonna have a lot of guests. But Dylan, as always, take us away.
Yeah, we're going to be busy, guys. We have a lot of content planned out. We're still covering a lot of shows. Hello Tomorrow, Mandalorian, and pretty soon Succession, also on HBO. Check out our playlist and all our other videos as well. Check out our Instagram socials. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor, as well as YouTube. But yeah, thanks, guys, so much. And until then, endure and survive.
This is our last of Us video, guys. Endure and survive. See you.